welcome everyone to the September edition of the Coaching Spotlight interview series. We hope all of you had a great summer and have recharged batteries for the new school year, of course. This afternoon, it is more than an honor, I would say a privilege for us, for Lenka and me, to introduce Esther Goette. Esther is our former ICF Switzerland President from 2018 to 2019, our Vice President and Board Member from 2017 to 2018. And in addition to all of this, Esther, she was the leader of the Swiss Romande chapter from 2013 to 2017. It is truly an outstanding journey supporting ICF Switzerland. So with no further ado, I would like to welcome to the Coaching Spotlight interview series, Esther. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Carmen, and thank you very much, Lenka.
First, we would like to start by asking some questions so your audience, our great audience, gets to know a little bit about you. Is that okay with you?
Absolutely.
Fantastic. So could you tell us a little bit, where are you from? What is your background?
Sure. So I'm originally from Hamburg, Germany, but I left my home country, my hometown many years ago. I came to Switzerland in 2003, but had also a 7-year stint in New York City where I lived for 7 years. And before I became a coach and certified coach in 2012, I actually had a 20-year career in marketing. So I studied business administration, and my first job was with Colgate-Palmolive in Hamburg, and with them I actually transferred to New York, had a few other moves around that, and joined Clairol. Clairol was acquired by Procter & Gamble. This is how I came here to lovely Switzerland, lovely Geneva. And I worked another 6 years with Novartis OTC before I changed my career and launched myself as an independent coach in 2013. I registered my company at the Chamber of Commerce. And since then, I'm independent and happy and very fulfilled.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. And it's a very long parcours, like they call it in French. It's a fantastic, many different experiences, many countries, continents. And so it made me curious now that you mentioned about your parcours. So what led you to become a coach?
So I initially didn't think of that. So, I actually found it by coincidence, serendipity. I was interested in learning something about people management. So I wanted to take a course on people management skills. Someone had recommended this coaching course for me. And this is how I did it. I flew to London. It was a fundamentals course, and I loved it. I loved the whole atmosphere, the ambience that was created. It was so positive, so affirming. I learned a lot about myself, and I learned some really interesting skills as well. And I thought, I'm going to sign up for the intermediate. And I did that. And during this intermediate course, which was highly experiential, actually, I was coaching a learning peer of mine, and she had a transformation in front of my eyes. So she was a bit, she was different. And suddenly there was this lioness standing in front of me, knowing what she wanted to do. And it was such a powerful experience that I thought, this is what I want to do instead of preparing marketing presentation number 2412. Here is where I can actually have a real impact. And that's what I will do one day, because I said one day, because where do all the marketeers go that are older than 45? They seem to disappear from the corporate floors. And I thought, here we go. I will become a coach then. And however, you think you're behaving professionally, but something has shifted during this training with me. And I wasn't so happy about my role anymore in corporate. And they also were suggesting something in a restructuring that we knew that wasn't going to work. And so that's when I said, all right, then let me take some of that severance money and invest it in my certification so that I get really good. And that's when I moved careers, when I changed careers.
Wow, that sounds fantastic and motivating. and inspirational, especially for Lenka and me. I don't know if you know, but we are in our process to become an ACC certified coach.
Excellent. Very good.
So we are very thrilled to have you today. Thank you for sharing that with us. And so talking about that, your transformation, when you saw this transformation, and is when you have this calling. What do you personally love about being a coach? It can be now, or if being an evolution with that, or in the present.
Yes, it's I'm now actually I signed up for another training. I want to become a supervisor, and I need to read a lot as a precursor of this. And so I started to reflect on this topic. Why am I? So what is it that I enjoy about this? And it's about learning myself, but also facilitating the transformation in the others. So helping my clients to helping them create the life that they want to create. And that can be, I purposefully phrase it very general, because it's the life, it's the personal as well as the professional life, but be intentional about it and get the tools for that. So that's what I love. Just enable people to become fulfilled.
Oh, that's beautiful. And talking about trainings, you mentioned, and where do you do your coaching training? What is this from the beginning, and what is this kind of training that you're doing now? So where do you do them?
Now, right now, I haven't started yet with my supervision training. This is about to start in October, so I don't know yet. I just know that I have to read books and I have to write reflection papers on them, and I'm behind. So that's very difficult for me. Now, I did coactive. I went to CTI, so the Coactive Training Institute, and that's where I did my course and my certification. So they are based in the US, but they have also provide courses in Switzerland. Now everything is of course online, but back in the days it was in the UK.
Okay, that's good. So Lenka, do you have any other questions so far that do you want to add or something from this first part?
No, I think that for the first part already very inspirational and motivational, like you said, Carmen. And looking forward to dive further into your career and experiences and so on.
Okay.
All right, then let me take over from Carmen. And we did a little sneak peek at your LinkedIn profile and also looked at what you're doing. And we saw that you have a lot of different occupations, and you've been founder and co-founder. You're also on a board. So we were interested to know, what is your unique service proposition as a coach? And if you could maybe share also a little more about some other occupations that you're busy with.
Busy with is a nice one. Yeah, sometimes it's very busy. So so I would say the way I position myself is as a coach that is specialized in leadership development. And what I mean by leadership development is personal leadership development, because I believe everyone's a leader. Leadership means taking responsibility for the world around you, and providing and working with people to become intentional and creating the desired impact. That's what I do. The access point, perhaps, or the gateway is through business, corporations. So I work predominantly in the corporate field. I love working with women leaders. Why? Well, because I can relate. I have been there. I always say I understand how international or global organizations work, how complex they are, what it means to navigate in that environment. And so I find that easy, and I speak the language. So that is for me relatively easy. Now, I don't only work with women leaders. Of course, I also work with male leaders. And living in Geneva, it also means that I work with organizations, not just corporations, because obviously we have lots of UN agencies here, and they are also very complex and international. So that fits very well with my profile. Mm-hmm. I also have become over time a facilitator of dialogues and workshops and a coach trainer. So that's for me still in that field that you just described. What are you busy with? And I have, you mentioned board members. That's true. That's a very recent development. So I have become a member of a board of a health consultancy that is operating also globally.
Wow. Yeah, a lot of very exciting things. And I loved what you said earlier, that you believe that everyone is a leader, and that it is also the direction that you're going. And I'm curious, how has it evolved for you? Was it clear to you from the beginning that you would like to focus on the leadership development?
No, I think it was a gradual. Well, hang on, let me rephrase it. I think I knew that this is what I wanted to do, but I didn't have the right word for it yet. So I remember from my coach training that it was the transformation, the moment of self-awareness and the realization that there's something that the client or the coachee would like to change, and how to change it and then change it. So it's this process. And it's actually taking the responsibility for themselves, taking the stance, not just reflecting upon it. But I didn't know how to say that, and I remember my first projects or my first clients were more in the area of career development, maybe also because it was easier to explain, like, what is coaching for. And mind you, we're talking 10 years ago. Now, since then, things have evolved. But 10 years ago, it was less easy to explain to people. I felt, maybe it was also my thing, my lack of confidence, perhaps, why people would benefit from a coaching experience. And with career coaching, it was very easy. And it was also still the same, right? People realizing, oh, this is what I want. This is what I'm getting, what my values are. Here's where I find fulfillment. Now making it happen. And similar process, it's just in a different situation. I find, if you will, you can say career coaching is also leadership development to a certain extent.
Yeah, very well. So thank you for sharing. And what has been the biggest insight for you in your coaching career?
Yeah, that's the question I struggled with. What's the biggest insight? For me, wow. I really struggle with that question, because there's so many, there's an insight about who I am as a coach, who I am evolving, who I am becoming as a coach. There is something about which areas, insights, like what are the clients that I love working with or not, certain parameters that I enjoy and or not. So that's why I'm a bit. It's a big question, Lenka. I'm sorry, I'm not really giving you an answer.
No worries. I'm interested, how did it happen for you? Because these are quite important questions for a coach to explore and dive into as the career progresses. I'm curious to hear from you. Was it something that you were doing consciously and pausing at certain moment of time to dive deeper and understand it for yourself? Or was it more sort of happening organically as you went along?
I think it was predominantly organically in my case. Now that I'm about to embark on this new supervision training, I realized that I could have been more reflective about my process. And I didn't, because I didn't work with a supervisor. And I think working with a supervisor makes you reflect. It's not a coach. It makes you reflect on your practice and how you are and when you are a coach. And I think that would have given me insights.
Sorry.
Bark sooner rather than by just by random or organically. So I think that when I, like what kind of topics or what kind of clients I like to work with, that is something that happens with experience. Like, you have one client where you think, oh, maybe it's just me. And then there's another client and you're like, wow, obviously that works. Or no, this isn't giving me energy. So and it wasn't an organic process. Sorry, it wasn't reflected.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. And I think it's also a good moment for us to think about as we are entering the field and think or learning also from others, what are some of the things to maybe incorporate. So thank you for sharing that.
But now I'm thinking also, thank you for bringing me back to why we're having this conversation, is that, please edit that, thinking about what is really important for me inside. And as a former ICF president, I really think that being a member at ICF, having that confidence that I'm part of an organization, an association that represents gold standards in coaching, has given me tremendous reassurance. Mm-hmm. Having clients that know ICF and then immediately know, you're an ACC, or when I became PCC or UPC, also that was such a relief to work with, rather than having to, doing the whole thing and trying to explain to people what the coaching is. So I thought that had tremendous impact on how I showed up, and also being part of the coaching community in Switzerland. Because let's face it, coaching is quite a lonely role, lonely job. And especially when you start out, there's so many questions that you have that, that's why it was one of the key reasons, the community was one of the key reasons I wanted to be a volunteer.
Yeah. Which actually brings me to the next question. I think that's a nice bridge that you mentioned on what are some of the most important learnings about building a coaching career for you?
Yeah, it can be quite lonely. I think, some of us are great at coming up with ideas on their own. Others aren't. I belong to the second group. I need exchange in order to come up with ideas, and I need exchange to process. That's helpful for me. So I would say it's really critical to find like-minded people, maybe already a bit more advanced in their coaching career, but people that you can connect with and that you can discuss with and talk about and maybe team up and have, agree on a project that you want to do together. It's incredibly inspiring to create a plan and come up with a program, maybe together approaching some clients or design some things. It's incredibly inspiring. It is also, obviously very supportive in order to push through that each one can hold each other accountable. So I think that is a key thing for me. The other thing is really invest in, or think about what kind of coach training you want to do, because I believe that the coach training in not only informs you, but it also shapes you. Mm-hmm. So what kind of coach, and of course this is a question we cannot answer at that time, but in hindsight, I owe a lot to my coach training, and I wasn't clear on that when I started. Mind you, I didn't even want to become a coach, so of course I didn't know. But in hindsight, it seems like, wow, has a tremendous impact.
Yeah, so true. And thank you for mentioning that, because indeed at the very beginning, when people aspire to be a coach, there may not be that much of awareness of really being conscious about what program am I going to choose and where is it going to get me. Mm-hmm. What advice would you offer to new coaches?
Well, like team up, find a friend, find better yet, find two. So you are a trio. I think that is actually a great one. And be in relationship. Be in relationship with other people so that you co-create something and it becomes lighter, rather than doing it on your own. And suddenly when, we always have moments where life isn't so great. And then if you're by yourself, it can feel quite heavy. Mm-hmm. So that would be a very basic advice. Thanks to ICF, we're always encouraged to continue our learning journey. I have met very few coaches that are not learning junkies in a way. So we love learning, and yet another thing. And I would advise to do that. It's fun. and it helps you grow. And we need that. We want to be with our clients. We want them to grow. So it's really up to us to also live that and be an example. So I think that's probably spontaneously the pieces of advice that I can think.
Yeah, very, very useful. And I'm also curious because earlier you mentioned that when you started off, coaching was not that known to people, or maybe they haven't really realized they needed it. Things may have changed over time, although different places in the world might still be in that spot. So I'm curious, what would you recommend to new coaches who are aspiring to set out their coaching business in the direction of getting new clients or really getting in front of the audiences? What has worked for you in the end?
Well, and I want to correct that a little bit. I mean, 10 years ago, at least in Switzerland, it was already considered quite a developed market. So it's just that when I started out, I didn't have access to the corporation. So I was talking to individuals and they haven't. And I think now what happened is that at least the name coach is a lot more used than it used to be. Back in 10 years ago, I think it was only sports. Now you have talent coaches, you have sport coach, I mean, nutrition, you have everything. So there's perhaps a bit of an inflation of the term. What I would suggest that people do in order to start out. So often people say it's important to have a website. Only when you have a website, then you are ready to be in business. I wouldn't say so. I would say that it takes a lot of time and sometimes also money, definitely effort to build a website. And it can be a reassurance, but it's not necessary. I wouldn't focus on that. I would focus on going out and telling people what it is that you love. Maybe not only say that you are a coach, but say what it is that what you're doing. So a coach, for some people, it just communicates the wrong thing. I give you an example. Mm-hmm. I was invited at a business dinner. It was a networking dinner, and there was women networking and lots of young and also not so young women around me. And there was 3 of them, and they said, "So what do you do?" And I said, "I'm a coach." And they go, "Uh-huh." And I realized it didn't land well because it wasn't tangible to them. They didn't know what kind of coach. So I suddenly had an idea, and I said to them, "Well, I help women to kick ass." Mm-hmm. Okay. So that's then suddenly, and then we started a conversation, and I learned how important it is to use the language that people understand. So what do you then? Yeah, I work with women so that they, get to develop and learn and grow and become the leaders that they want to be. Okay. And then how do you do that? I coach. Mm-hmm. So whilst for me, it is the world, for other people, it doesn't mean much. So I think we need to help translate what we do into the language that other people understand, so that it helps to be seen and position ourselves that way. And I think that's the way then to find also clients, which is obviously the question that you've had. So I think LinkedIn profile, where you can update, you can play with it. I have a colleague who's every month or so I check, and there's something else that he puts on this profile. Okay, but it's an indicator that there's also some. I'm not saying to do that, but it shows that you can. Whereas a website, once you have it, it's much harder to change and adjust.
Yeah. I love that, speaking the client's language so that people can relate. I think this is absolutely important, especially in the world today when there are so many people emerging as coaches.
What I did, sorry, Lenka, what I did, just to expand on that a little bit. I mean, I knew I wanted to work with women because mm-hmm. that's something where I thought I had credibility. I also felt that I had a mission for that. So this is where my heartbeat was indicating I wanted to play. So I knew these are the people I want to work with. I didn't know how to speak to them. What I did, I asked 10 or so women, professional women in my group, if they had 15 minutes or so. And I asked them some questions. I did literally do a little market research project. You know, what kind of challenges they're facing, how they're addressing them, what they wished for, questions like that, in order to see how do they talk about this? What language do they use? And then in order to actually build on that and create my pitch or positioning statement. So I think that's a good thing, to speak to the people you want to work with and see what is it that they want. I think starting coaches might fall into the trap to talk about themselves. What transformation they have gone through and what they want to do. But that's not relevant for the client. The client wants to know, what can you do for me? What am I going to become? What's in it? What's the great change I will actually experience?
Yeah, absolutely. And I also feel, to follow up on what you said, that when we as coaches go through a program, we go through certain transformations. So we might be a few steps ahead and speaking this coachy language that people cannot really relate to. So speaking their language is super helpful. Thank you so much for sharing.
Sure.
And what do you find to be the hottest trend that you see affecting the coaching industry, and what's your opinion on how to adapt?
Well, I mean, I noticed that there's a lot of these coaching platforms these days, where they automate somewhat the coaching services. So basically, you join these platforms, clients can then find you there, and then typically they use the platforms for the coaching sessions. Sometimes it's anyway, what I'm noticing is that they always say the same thing. They say they want to democratize coaching in order to provide coaching not only to the top levels in an organization, but throughout the organization. And that is coming at the price of lower costs, which means the coaches are getting less money. And that angers me. And it's incredible how many of these platforms are now in existence. And one dear colleague of mine, coach colleague, said, and how come they're always founded by men? and most coaches are women. I'm like, there's another element to it that is actually very, very profound. So this is something that I'm observing. I have joined a few networks just because also of curiosity. I haven't really been working in them. So it seems this is the trend. I don't know where this is headed. It means that if this is true, so if this is not, it is true, it is true. So it means that a lot more people get coaching. And I think it's probably interesting for coaches starting out to get lots of experience, although I'm also building already my assumptions into this response. So I don't want to judge that. It's just that what I'm worried about is that there is a price inflation. For, I don't know, 60 francs or something, I heard that's really not much money for a certified coach. And the executive coach price range is obviously, the sky's the limit. So if I'm thinking sky, then 60 is very low. Not sure how to solve that. That's just a trend. So what's the way to respond to that as a coach? Go for it, check it out, try it. I'm pretty sure that there's lots of transitions, so you can come and go. There's no obligation to stay for the rest of your life. And I would encourage, to find also other clients. And it all depends. Some coaches don't want to work full time, only want to work half time. Some coaches don't need financial high rates, they're happy with that. So everybody's different. So that's why I would say try it out, and it can be easy because you don't have to look for the clients yourself, but I think the pay is too low, in my opinion. Another trend is perhaps an overstatement, is well, that's maybe just me wanting to create a trend, is the internal coaches, but that's from an ICF perspective that we discussed when I was still president. That's like we see more and more internal coaches, but we don't really know who they are, and we don't speak with them, so we don't really know what their needs are. So that was something that I wanted. That was one of my wishes, that we would be creating a service for internal coaches in ICF. So it's a trend. I don't know what else did I write something else in my?
I think these are covering it. I think we're mainly talking about, these two indeed.
Yeah, okay, good. Sorry about that.
Great, thank you so much for sharing. Carmen, is there any questions you have in addition?
No, actually, this is a perfect, I think, transition for what is coming next.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned actually about, thank you, Lenka. You mentioned about, I mean, this, actually you brought up two very deep and insightful points of view here with regards to the vulgarization of language, so everybody understands things. And I just want to say or quote that applies for everything that is going on, including medicine, vaccines, education.
Mm-hmm.
And the second point that you have brought up is regarding the platforms and the many courses online and the many universities are coming and the many institutes are coming.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's fine. But I think that's what this question comes along. I mean, where are the standards?
Mm.
You know, so that's what it comes. So you mentioned what does being a member of ICF mean? But if you just can reformulate one more time, so it goes along what we just said about the previous question with Lenka.
Mm.
What is being a member means and what gives you as a coach?
Well, I mean, I think not only does it give you, or give me the self-confidence when I started out, you know, I'm an accredited member. I'm not only a member. So I have, when I started, I did an ACTP program. So I became immediately an ACC. And I took that, that was a pride thing. There was a confidence about belonging to that group of people I knew so little about. So it was really important to me to find a tribe, to know that there are people like me, many who have more experience than me, many I could tap into. There's a lot of learning and knowledge there. And also having access to furthering my knowledge about coaching. So not only as a starting point, but also as a home, right? So where you learn, you practice, and you get reassurance. When I became a PCC, it was a major moment. There was a sense of accomplishment, and of course, it was the time when they started with the general knowledge assessment. So that was more or less about the same time. So it was a double whammy, and it was huge. And then also realizing how some clients, now more and more clients, are asking for ICF accreditation. And I thought, wow, and I have that. Great. On one side, relief, on the other side, yes, you know, so it was a bit of a mixed here. And I'm now working towards my MCC accreditation. So there is that, like I have been now, and that is something where ICF really provides so much. I mean, I know that some people just want the accreditation, then they leave, they're not members all the time. And I am always a member, even though maybe I do not attend the sessions because I'm too busy, unfortunately. I have something else going on. But I know that the work that the volunteers and the association is doing in the country as well is incredibly important. And they couldn't do that without the membership fees. So for me, it's a matter of supporting ICF as a spokes channel, as a spokes organ in the world, because they have more reach than I would have. So it's a very, very, very important association.
Oh, thank you very much for mentioning that. I believe in that. I think that's what we are in the journey right now with Lenka. And also talking about ICF being a member, and you already mentioned, and we talked in your introduction, that you've been a long-term volunteer, and you've been, active with ICF for many years. So this passion comes from somewhere. What motivated you to take these roles? I mean, because you have done all these roles, and what is the impact of your role into ICF? We discussed that what ICF gives us. So what motivated you, and how what you cultivate with your work with ICF?
Well, I don't know what will remain, or what people remember, what in terms of impact. So I don't know that. I joined because I thought, wow, this is a great way of meeting people and being in touch with this new community. Let's not forget, I had changed careers. I didn't know. I was trying to find other coaches, and I remember Françoise said, hey, do you want to become a chapter leader, co-chapter leader? It was at the time. And I thought, sure. And then it was an honor. I felt honored to be part of that group. And then it became fun, because there was a lot of people that, I don't know, sometimes you're not best friends with everybody, of course not. And you don't have to. And it's a practice of interacting and relating. I thought it was fun. And then for me, it was very much fun to organize these events and meeting the people and being with the people. So now it must be hard for the virtual chapters to operate. But yeah, that's unfortunately the COVID times.
Yeah, it's true. It's true what you mentioned. And yeah, this is vivid interaction. We can even see it now with Lenka being as volunteers. Yeah. And even if it's been COVID, which is an unfortunate event of global impact, I think ICF is still have been trying to keep doing this virtual and adapting to this unfortunate situation. And so, in your opinion, what do we, actually, before that, you mentioned something also that was very insightful. Actually, many things you mentioned has been very insightful. So talking about vulgarization of language, I mean, stating in a personal level, what is what we do, pragmatically, helping out and motivating, right? That's how we contribute normally to society. Like we say, we be being at home, right? Mm-hmm. So, but talking about escalating the level. So in your opinion, what can the coaching community in Switzerland do further to strengthen this reputation of coaches as a profession?
Yeah, maybe I'm living in a bubble, in my bubble, and it's an echo chamber. Everybody knows coaching, and everybody believes in coaching, and I don't really have the challenge anymore to having to explain that. Or when I do, then I say, I give a statement, I explain. I do that in a one-on-one whenever somebody's talking to me. I remember when I was in ICF, we did events. We had some PR press articles where we talked about it. To what extent that helped someone else seeing, okay, this is what coaching is. I don't know. We don't have the information. We can only try. We can only try and continue to do so. Even, I mean, I do every time I have a session with somebody, I explain to them how ICF defines coaching. Because that's something we need to do. I just say, it's a thought-provoking, creative process. So that's how I start, because there are so many other terms out there, or people that use the term coach out there, and I need to do that. So I think that it's part of our ethics as the code that we adhere to, that we must not forget each time to bring it in when the opportunity arises, and it is in our favor at the end. So it can only be in our favor. So because we do set, we have our ethics, we have our coaching, we have the definition of what coaching means to us, and that sets us definitely apart.
Yeah, definitely. It's given the standard for us.
Yeah.
But talking about that, what do you believe about this, the new core competences, or the update of the core competences? What do you? Mhm.
Well, I think it's great that they're simplified.
Mhm.
I have yet to dive really deep,
Mhm.
but I know I will because of the, I'm faculty in a coach training. I don't know if I mentioned that. So I've now joined the CTI faculty last year. So I'm now part of that coach training faculty, and there is that will be addressed there, so that we make sure that we speak the language, because the language is slightly different. But I think it's a massive undertaking.
Mhm.
So the people who've worked on that, chapeau.
Mhm.
And I think if it's helpful to read, there were 11 before, now there are 8. I think that is per se already a good thing. And some of them are, you see, the problem is I'm not yet familiar, but there's some of them that is really focusing on, there was a new one that is really a great addition, and I can't remember now which one that is calling it out. So sorry, not a good question for me to answer.
Oh, no, well, they have been shortened. As Lenka and I am studying them for our exams, for sure.
And something about the relationship, right? I mean, there's something that is specific about it, and I can't remember now. You tell me.
A co-creating relationship, I believe. Yeah, and they were indeed combined for most of them, so that made it a bit simpler, more condensed.
The coaching mindset too, which is for me as a neuroscientist, makes a lot of sense. And I like it, as you were mentioning about networking or interacting with other coaches. And we have different trainings. And for me, it's been a beautiful journey learning the ICF code of ethics and core competences and trying to adapt. And I can see the differences in when you're talking about different trainings and when some of the core competences have not been met. That's super, super interesting. So as you mentioned, yes, so it's shorter and more specific, so we can clearly understand what they mean. Yeah.
Well, I think what you're saying about the mindset, there was something that I thought, yes, there was a word that did not exist in the other older competencies before. And I think mindset in our stance, like how we are, how we show up, is so important. And I think that's what was called out there. That I like that.
Yeah, me too. Well, I mean, Lenka, do you have anything to add before I go to the last one, which is not related with coaching? Any other question?
No more questions from me.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask the last question, because you've been everywhere. You're a citizen of the world, but since you've been long time already in Switzerland, what is your favorite place in Switzerland and why?
Oh, that's a tough one. That's a really tough one. So of course I love in English, Lake Geneva, in French, Lac Léman, which is a bit more inclusive, because obviously many parts of many cities are located in even countries, 2 countries. So the other day I was driving back. We were on the beach outside of Geneva, and we were driving back on the scooter, so nice and slow, but no physical effort. And just to drive into Geneva and look at it was a summer afternoon, and look over the Rad and see the jet d'eau. It's just gorgeous. And people were barbecuing outside, and it was just this atmosphere of leisure, relaxation, freedom. I love that. And of course, there's so many more places in gorgeous Switzerland. So difficult question, Carmen.
Okay, what do you prefer, Switzerland or New York? No, just kidding. As a New Yorker, also myself.
Well, and of course, not during Ida, right?
Yeah, well, yes. For sure. No. Well, I mean, Esther, thank you so much for this fantastic interview. It was really, really insightful, full of emotions, information, and very good tips, and all this perspective in terms of the coaching career, or things we can do actually to keep helping others or keep helping coaching from home through the outside. So thank you very much for joining us.
You're very welcome, both Carmen and Lenka.